Well, hello everyone. Here to show you that the Magic Coloring Book Mix Speaks coloring activity right here is basically that if most of us have seen for the Magic Coloring Book Mix is basically talking about right here. I try to say is like a magic coloring book, and basically though that you have it right here is like I went into right here. It's like a sketch right here in green and yellow, like of example right here of me, and of course right here will be as example right here of me and like say a book bag, and I'll go ahead and use right here is it the green and like the blue type colors right here. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is like a draw example right here of a book bag. And if most of us have seen like that, the colorings of like you say the Study for the More, and if anybody has watched any other type of coloring episodes or anything like that from maybe from other channels, is basically is like other sources of media of basically talking about is like for education about how important it's like for our education. But basically though that I could tell anybody here that that one of the reasons about it's like for the whole purpose about this activity of knowing about that ever since I was a kid that I kind of wanted to kind of go ahead and speak of speak up to like what you call like my own opinions about what I thought about things. And a lot of anybody probably say about if you're going to say anything, you might as well say it nicely. But and I can tell anybody here, if anybody has school kids, kids that who are in school, and they may think that a lot of ways. So it's hard, it's a waste of time. That knowing about the work that they give you, it's hard to understand, stuff like that. And I could tell anybody here that really, what does a magic coloring book have anything to do with it? I'm like, well, I picked this title of knowing about it's like for the magic coloring book, and I'm using right here is a variety of colors like the pink and then along with the orange. Use orange, but anyway, but you have right here, basically showing right here of if this was right here was me, and basically though that. The whole purpose about this whole magic coloring book is that knowing about really about that it's a type of activity book, and like I mentioned before from the other one is knowing about from where you can actually get the coloring books. And like with anybody that may say that you can get them, you can order them online or maybe especially through a special catalog or somewhere like that. But on the other hand, too, that knowing about with most of the time with most magic coloring books that they usually say is like to work with the crayons, and a lot of times with those the clowns activities that they would usually have is where you would have the crayons and the crayons would disappear, and that knowing about that they would disappear out of the box, and then they would color the pictures at where you would actually tap on the picture just to make for the color to disappear, and then for the color to appear it is. But anyway, it's talk I say for the magic coloring book. And basically with the magic coloring book you have right here is these rulers, and let's just say if you were to have the ruler or some plan like talking about from whenever they magically appear and stuff, doing like say the so-called measurements. But anyway, probably if I think about the difference between these rulers that you could actually do measurements with them, but then one of them has a calculator, like electronic calculator, and then one of them also has the time display. And this other one right here will be made out of like say like a wood type material. But anyway, most of us have used those programs before, such as InDesign or Photoshop. That a lot of times it do be like what you call like a ruler guide going say vertical and then horizontal, like directions like that. But anyway, they have right there is like say a ruler, and I can go and put the rulers about right here. But anyway, working right here is like with these colors, and anybody that may say about that they're supposed to actually magically appear, and like the way I may have mentioned before from my other coloring was knowing about that from the other activity is knowing about I guess the whole purpose about is having fun with it, like any magic kits that you buy nowadays, at least having fun with it. But let's just say that if this was right here was me, and if I would have like say a hard day at school or something like that, I would drawing right here as me. But on your hand, anybody may think, I'm like, well, what type of magic are you supposed to look at whenever you actually, it's like if you're not working with like what you call one of those professional designer, your type magic coloring books. And in a lot of ways, anything that you may see, maybe like at the circus or anywhere like that, activities where they have like say a magic coloring book, and especially the kind of books to where that you can't erase your work. That if you draw something and in order to be able to erase it, that you can't erase it. That like you say, like a sketch pad that I'm working with, that knowing about for whatever that you do, a lot of times that you cannot erase your work. And now I would probably say to anybody that I'm like, yeah, that talking about a lot of times that seems like the old ways with technology nowadays. You would think that nowadays with technology, that if you make a mistake on something that you would be able to erase. You will be able to erase what you do if you do make a mistake, other than having to start all over. But and anybody would probably say, I'm like, yeah. And what you call it's like for start all over, which means that I'm like, I'm like, you mean that I had to start all over again? You start from square one, or does it just go ahead and go to square 5 or something like that? But anybody probably say, I'm like, yeah, that they usually get mad if they had to start over on something, if they were working on something and then they wind up messing up on something, and then they had to start over. It's like, yeah, that knowing about like the way I went and drew myself right here, like anybody probably say, like, so the whole purpose about magic, I've given like say that look on my face, and knowing about like so far as happy, or if it's sad or anything like that. But let's just say that if this right here was me, and for this whole part about speaking about, say, my own magic coloring book here, basically a type of magic coloring book that I went ahead and drew by scratch, but start by a blank page. And this right here is talking about if I were to be like, I'll go ahead and use a pencil right here, and basically the whole purpose about why I'm doing this activity right here for a magic coloring book is talking about these different art supplies. And with most of the time with different art supplies, they have it to where that you would have to buy these different kinds, and like with anybody that may say that crayons are crayons and pencils are pencils, and markers are markers, and pens are pens, paint is paint. But on your hand too, knowing about that, this right here that I'm using will be as a 2B pencil right here. If anybody has seen though that the type of shading right here, this is supposed to be like, say, a scene right here in the background that I went ahead and drew on this magic coloring book. But most of us have seen this is supposed to be like a lake right here that I went ahead and drew, and say that if that was grass right there, and I can go ahead and use, I don't have a green crayon here, but I'll go ahead and drew the outline, say use a green marker. But anybody probably think about, really what shows better whenever the types of art utensils that you usually have, what shows better, if it's crayon or if it's marker? Because a lot of times, most magic coloring books that they usually say that the pictures come out to where that you pretty much have to use something like maybe a permanent marker, or if it's you type of a Pastelius type marker, anything that shows, I guess they say if it's contrast, or if it's anything that's related to mascot, like I have these see for generals pencils right here that I'll go ahead and see if I can get them out of the package here. But you have right here is are these these pencils right here, these pencils right here, and basically though that you have is these pencils, and basically with these pencils that it's basically like you have it. You got the pencil sharpener right there, and then see here that pretty much you see here that they the 3B, I guess you say the 3B pencils, but you can buy them in like a package though. But basically though, that you have it to where that at the time whenever I looked into the store, I was just thinking about I'm like, yeah, exactly. You spend about at least $25 or so on a package of drawing pencils, if it's like what you call sketch, or if it's the 2B or the 3B kind pencils. And we may think that though that they all pretty much do about the same thing, but I could tell anybody here, I'm like, erasers and erasers, they don't. I'm like, yeah, exactly. Car chargers, camera chargers, or chargers, they all do the same thing. But on your hand, that knowing about, if we could probably think about, if we were to kind of do some experiments though with the erasers though, that one eraser that I could tell anybody here that a lot of times, with most of the time with the erasers, that really nothing can really be erased off this work here except maybe the pencil work. But if I were to use the eraser on like this work right here, and just knowing about that it leaves like what you call it, maybe a few some dust right there, but if we see right there, it's like say the type of work that don't want to say with the 3B pen, I think. What is it? The 2B, I think the one that's the 2B pencil, and we can maybe see it different. But then whenever we use, whenever we go ahead and use this 3B pencil, and we can kind of see. Can we really see that? I'm like, it's a little. It seems a little darker, and I could probably tell anybody here that maybe maybe the more pressure you put on it, it looks darker. And I can go ahead and draw right here. It's like a shadow right here of, like, say if this was a mountain, and I can tell anybody, I'm like, yeah, that I drew, let's say, the outline that this was, the actual coloring book. But let's just say if I were to draw the outlines of draw the inside, it's like besides the stroke, if it's the filling, it's like to draw the details right here of the mountains. And these were like, say, mountains, and I tell anybody here, the reason why I do this right here is talking about, it's like, yeah, that if most of the time that if we want to go ahead and take our homework with us and knowing about the type of location for where you think that would be a good place to study it at, such as, the Rocky Mountains, or if it's the Smoky Mountains or anywhere like that, or maybe if you lived in places like, Omaha or Nebraska or, somewhere like that, and knowing about the types of locations that if it's mountains or anywhere like that, but basically right here is that I didn't do it all by pencil. I did some of this, of course, by color as well. That we could probably tell the difference between like what you call between the sketch, using these pencils, and of course using the colors too. But on your hand, at knowing about that, I usually worded it as that if I were to do my artwork a lot of times, that what I usually word it as, work that you do yourself, at your own time being, is what I usually call magic. I'm like that, knowing about that, the type of magic coloring book that I've seen, of course, that they usually say that usually works by the tap of on the book, and then the pictures are already colored. But on their hand, that knowing about that, between what's really magic, and there may be some magic kits out there that I'm sure you can probably buy that are quite pricey too. But usually what I usually look at it is like work that you can actually do in your own time being, like what I usually consider magic. And the way I think about though that any magic tricks that I maybe would like to discover one of these days, such as how to draw the details on the mountains. And I don't know about if all mountains would have, like, would say the blue top, say stroke or something like that on there. But on the other hand, I'll go ahead and draw here is the mountains right here, and I'll go ahead and use right here is the color. Go ahead, maybe use some crayon, but use the two. I'll say use a 3B pencil. And I think that there's also charcoal. I also have charcoal available too. But if I were to use, I could say a pencil right here, just to kind of draw in there right here. If that was a lake right there, and if that was grass right there, I'm like, yeah, that there. I could probably spend hours on this activity, just to kind of experiment around with these different pencils and different colors and stuff. But let's just say that if I were to go ahead and draw right here is a shadow right here for the lake, and then if anybody were to say that I'm like, usually though a lake though that besides the shadow and then just to kind of make it look real, that some of the most of the time, if most lakes that they would have it to where that they would have like the wind. The wind, say the wave, like that, sea waves or anything like that. But Anyway, but like say with the erasers or erasers, but on your hand that knowing about, I'm like, yeah, that with the type of eraser that if you were to put in a whole lot of detail right here, like for the mountains, and then on the other hand, if you want to go ahead and put like maybe a few bush, yeah, anybody probably thinking about, I'm like, yeah, that the magic coloring book, I'm like, yeah, between black and white magic coloring books that don't really match, huh? But on your hand too, that knowing about, I'm like, yeah, that just to kind of experiment around. That anybody probably say, I'm like, you know, anything that you may buy at like an art store or anywhere that you may say that with these the whole point, I guess the whole point I'm getting to is like right here is like, say if a house I would be living at, but let's just say that with these different color utensils that knowing about whenever you use them is knowing about how you can tell the difference between what they do, is that knowing about, go ahead and right here I use the eraser right here. I'll go ahead and maybe use this kind of eraser. This is an older eraser, but we may think that erasers are erasers, but there may be one kind that they usually say that may may only be for, like, say a certain type of like a sketch, a certain type of lead. It is like a type of graphic, I guess art. Artifacts, basically, that whenever you use the eraser, so that there's one kind that usually say that's usually for, like, say like a number 2 type pencil, but then if you were to actually buy an actual eraser, kind of like this, that they may say that it gives off like what you call is like a more tone, text, to the work. And I could tell anybody here that if we can, know the difference, between, if we were to actually use sandpaper, if anybody has ever used sandpaper before, we may wonder, I'm like, why is it that there's like 2 different types? And the way I think about, though, that with most erasers, that erasers may look, maybe it may seem like that they work about the same, but then there may be a type of eraser that they usually say that it removes with most erasers would work at about the same. But on the other hand, there are some erasers that they usually say that work their own types of ways. And by saying is that if you use like a type of pencil, and I can tell anybody here that I'm like, yeah, that really do all erasers supposed to, what you call is like after you may make something disappear, or if it's you'll erase something and then the next thing you know it's still there. Like, yeah, talk about if I were to actually sign my name using this pencil right here. If anybody has gotten this practice before, like, yeah. And if I were to try, using this eraser right here, I used that a couple of times. Look what happens. It's still there, but then of course that only, like, say part markings of it were actually removed. Some of it was smeared. But let's just say if I were to actually use the dark side right here and actually erase my name right here. Okay, if we can kind of tell the difference right there. Just a little bit more clear, ain't it? Just a little bit more clear compared to an eraser like this right here. But on the other hand too, that knowing I'm like, yeah, that type of clear, but no, I'm like, yeah. On the other hand too, that knowing about, I'm like, yeah, erasers are pretty much erasers, but on the other hand, that we can maybe be able to tell the difference between that which each eraser more likely does about the same and about the difference. But anybody probably thinking, I'm like, yeah, the next thing you know, I'm like talking about, like, if you had a choice between if you want to go ahead and work with a brand new one, or if you want to go ahead and work with like a type of similar one, but you have these different erasers, and like with anybody that may think that I'm like, you buy a whole kit of different erasers, and you kind of thinking about what's the difference between them. But one of them may be bigger, one of them may be smaller, one of them may have like what you call some artistic artifacts on it, or something like that. But if I can go ahead and put my name right back in there, but anyway, if you do like say others sketch art, but like with anybody that may wonder, I'm like, what's the difference between these erasers? And I could probably tell anybody here that I'm like, about almost all of them are pretty much are going to do the same. So it's like, if you want a type of eraser that's going to give you, like, say, a real clean erase, more likely it would be like, say, a type of eraser, depending on what that type of writing, the type of pencil that you're using, such as a supply that you're using. But anyway, right here is, like, say, for Magic Coloring Book Mick, and talk about right here, if this right here was like, is my writing desk right here, and basically though, that with anybody, like, that the type of writing desk that you would like to take home with you, and then on your hand too, like to maybe take it to school with you, and etc., etc. But other than that you have right here is an example right there of me, and I'll go ahead and add right here is like, so you got right here is if I were wearing, like, say, red pants, but the whole purpose about magic, though, that the way I think about the whole purpose about magic was all about is like that, knowing about that, if this is your work, or if this is actually, something that that you actually seen it on one of the TV programs, and then you may want to go ahead and try it at home or something like that. And I could tell anybody here that maybe one of the reasons to why they don't have too much, they may have a few magic kits that you can actually buy and try them at home a lot of times. But a lot of times, though, that they may say that quite a few of them, I'm sure you are expensive, and on your hand, that knowing about, like, that working on the site here, it's like the type of marker, say the chisel marker, and knowing about the types of things that we can actually do with, like, say, Magic Coloring Book. But other than that, like, talk of, say, for the study, for the more of talking about, you say, for how much time that we spend working on something it is, and like, do, say, the calculation, you say, of the math of basically talking about is like between between an eraser and then knowing about that work, I would say, is the crayon, and then the marker it is. A lot of times, I say, use the crayon for, like, say, for the filling, and then use the marker, say, for the outline. But on your hand too, that knowing about, like, that for speaking of about the Magic Coloring Books, is knowing about, like, that really that did you actually trace that, or did you actually cheat? Did I cheat on a test, whichever it is? And like, I think I'm like, well, I drew this. I drew this, and then knowing about, on the other hand too, that knowing about, if most of us knowing about between the safe ways, and then between safe between driving safe, and then knowing working safe, if most of us knowing a feeling about between doing stuff during the day, and then working at night, if you're going to be real busy and doing something especially late at night, and knowing about how safe we are, especially doing stuff at night, such as if we're going to be maybe going out shopping at night, or if it's going to be anything that's going to be related to studying at late at night, or if it's doing anything late at night, about how safe we are of doing that type of stuff. And with anybody that may say that knowing about how safe do you feel doing stuff at night, and say talking about, like, what does a Magic Coloring Book really explain? I'm knowing about, like, that knowing about what's really magic. What's really magic about anything that you do. But knowing, I usually say that that this is this is what I actually did. It's like with my own skills, and knowing this is what I'm actually doing with that, with my hands or my ears, whichever it is. I like between finger painting and stuff like that. But anyway, right there is, like, say, an example right there of a moon. But other than that, like, talk about right here, I'll go ahead and draw a little bit of detail right here for the sun. But knowing about how safe that we actually feel going places at night, and then knowing about, like, if you be going for a walk at night, or if it's going to the store, or maybe going to work at night, stuff like that. But anyway, I'm sure Magic Coloring Books could more likely show a number of different meanings, such as for what magic is really all about. While I talk about magic, like talk about the magic hat, the magic book bag. It's like the magic book and showing it like say in 3D. I think about a magic a book bag, a magic book bag that can hold more than what it looks like. I'm like like the book bag that basically that if you actually were to look at it from a distance, it'll look like it don't hold that much, but then by the time you open it, it's got a lot of pockets. It's got a lot of pockets on the inside, and like time you can hold this and you can hold that. But anyway, I'm talking about right here. I'll go ahead and use right here. It's like see, you got the gel type crayon right here. Is to add some details right here. It's like for the scenery in the background. And this right here, I went ahead and drew this, but it would say with the mountain sceneries or with the lake. But if anybody were saying, Mike, anywhere you are that you like to have it to where that take your homework anywhere you like to, and take it at home with you or something like that, and like right there is a desk right there, that I'll be working at. And anybody may think, I'm like, that if you were to be going to school and in class and be doing stuff, and then the next thing you know, it's like that you spend a lot of time working on your assignments, and stuff like that, and then next thing you know, it's like you may say that you would like to take it home with you, or maybe you don't want to take it home with you. You want to actually take it somewhere else. You want to take a break from it, stuff like that. But on the other hand, too, that knowing I'm like I'm not used to explaining this on on the magic coloring book. But I tell you one thing that a lot of the things that I more likely do it knowing about that for my own time is knowing I'm like that so far as to try to explain the stories and stuff like that on a magic coloring book. The way I think about though that was like the magic coloring book activity. Really, the most part about magic though is basically talking about right here. I know about besides making the picture look like it's doing a number of things. But the whole purpose about magic I really think about is knowing about it's like if you actually see things magically appear, maybe you might see them later on. Things that may magically appear, I'm that talking about might give way to if I were to way to hold the camera position, or if it's anything that's related to the way that the angle position, or know about from where where the camera was mounted, from wherever the picture was taken, whichever it is, and knowing I'm that anything that's electronically that could be worked. If it's anything that's related to what's called a study guide, or if it's like the dream maker guide, or anything like that. Anything that more likely anybody probably saying about anything that would guide you if you're going to be anywhere swimming or hiking, anywhere like that. Anything that more likely that would be there, to guide you and know about what you gotta do, just to be safely, knowing about saying to do the best you can. But knowing about right here, type of mailbox, and right here, and of course you see the house, and of course you see with the scenery. But just knowing about talk about for the magic coloring book, Mick Speaks, basically showing right here, knowing about the whole purpose about magic though. The whole purpose about magic is basically showing right here. I say for today being Thursday, I'm knowing about the magic coloring book Mick talking about the difference between the art supplies, and knowing about from whenever things from the amount of time spent that for that work of art. Knowing about for the magic coloring book Mick is it's talking for what Mick Speaks, knowing about that he talks about his artwork, knowing about for what he usually knows is as basically it's from his own work. Knowing about how to sort of explain, knowing about for magic coloring book Mick color activity. Talking about magic coloring book, you have right here is that knowing about you got here is a star in the sky right here. Windy night. I think got a lot of quite some cloud cover, but I'm talking about is like if most of us were to be like, if we were to be out at late at night, of knowing about like, is the, kind of keep a lookout and knowing about, exactly from where you're going, and it's like, know is that that is to know exactly where you are and where you plan on going next. But other than that, I talk about C for the magic coloring. Well, hi there, everyone. To talk about, say, for magic coloring book is basically talking about, you have right here is example right here of me, and then along right here is like I talk about, say, for the speech though. But basically, that if most of us know, if we would go out at night, of knowing about like exactly from where we're going, and then knowing for how you say, is like for for how it is like the safety though, for the safety reasons to go, is knowing about like that, that whenever you go somewhere, it's like by yourself at night, but knowing about like, that really about describe about, is like if how that has anything to do with a magic coloring book. And anybody probably saying, I'm like, that magic coloring books could be, is like so far as drawing out for what you imagine, maybe for what you dreamed about or anything like that. Or magic coloring books could be as like maybe just to test something or experiment around with something. But anybody that may say, like between day and night, we may think that well, it's about the same. But knowing about like, if you're not used to the fact about being somewhere late at night, it's like talking about like, that if you're not used to like talking about like, we may say that if we were to be like what you call, be looking at the magic coloring book, it's like, during the day. If it's during the day or if it's during the night, of knowing I'm like, that really, can we really tell the difference between, you say, the magic coloring book, between if it's between day and night? And anybody may think that whenever if we were to be going out at night, as an I'm like, that it seems like that the light's a little bit different, compared to maybe during the day. During the day that you may see, like say, the light in like what you call a number of areas compared to at nighttime. That from how the how the reflections of knowing about like from where that the colorings are. It's like talk about from the places that you say, if it's like the shadows, or if it's maybe the contrast or the hues or saturation or anything like that. I know about the types of details that we're like put into the drawing though, and know I'm like that so far as what you call is like for magic. But other than that, like the way I would think about it though, with most of the time with magic, anybody probably say, I'm like, really, could it be explained necessarily just by the fact about like, that just, to go ahead and buy something from the store and color it from there. But I don't know, like with anybody probably say about, I'm like, it's about knowing about if we did the work, and then on your hand too, from our time, from what we spent, just to show the best of our effort, and knowing about really about for how it explains about really about what magic really is. For magic though, what I guess really what it's about is like knowing about like that if this is what you call is like for my work though, for my work of knowing about if it's like what you call, say the glow in the dark, it's like for glow in the dark pencil or pencil, stencil or stencil, research, anything like that. But other than that, I talk about here so far as to say is like for the magic coloring book mixed speech. We all know about for like if it's going to be like for for magic coloring book mixed speech, or if it's going to be like what you call, it's like for Blake's or if it's the Thomas speech, or if it's that Aaron speech or anything like that. But on your hand too, to know I'm like that any of our work that more likely that we may do, I want to say on a normal sketch pad, it is basically talking about, it's like for the whole purpose of say magic coloring book. I know about between whenever if the colors were to appear or if they disappear, just like magic, just like magic, just like magic. And like just like talking about like so far as just like magic. But other than that, like talk about right here, I talk about just like what you call it's like just like magic. But other than that, right here, I'm talking about it's like with magic though. If anybody may say, I'm like, if we ever be going out during the day or during the night, I know I'm like, it's like the safe. ways, of course, of how to know about. Like, if we more likely though that if we could maybe go ahead and draw out the details for like maybe that something that we may find at night that maybe we would like to share, or something we found during the day. I might talk about it's like, yeah, for this is what downtown, St. Louis looks like, or Des Moines, Iowa, or if it's Kansas State or any place like that. And I might get the types of details we could put into like what you call so far is called magic. But the other than that, I talk about right here, as so far as for my speech of knowing about, like, yeah, and I ever tell anybody right here, I know about really whenever I was a kid, that I, a lot of times maybe want to go and get in front of the camera and just be like what you call, for magic, like so, knowing about this so-called magic. But anyway, you say between magic reading glasses or the magic notepad, whichever it is, I know I'm like, yeah, that so far as, what did I learn? I'm knowing about like, yeah, the number of things that more likely we can do ourselves, and knowing about like, that, yeah, that a number of things, if like anybody probably say about, what do you call the type of magic where you can get a number of things, what you call done in 2 hours? Can you do this? A number of things such as rotate, cropped, as well as say close, say at the sketchbook or anything like that, like a number of things that you can do within a certain amount of time. That's what you call, you say for a magic clock. I don't want to say for the magic clock or anything like that, but knowing about knowing about the things for which we could do. But other than that, I talk about, I say so far as we could do this, but other than that, I talk about say for the magic coloring book, say for mixed speech, you say color activity. Is knowing about is like for the best of our knowledge, and knowing about for whatever work that we can do, from our own time being, and knowing about Mike, knowing about Mike, that we may say that we only have so much time, of course, to work on something, but on your hand too, that knowing on Mike, that really about for about which each minute, for. If we were maybe say about Mike, for every minute that may count of knowing about it, just by you say the words. So if the words that came out of which say is a magic coloring book, or if they actually came out, like we say for your own writing, so far as the same with the book of knowing about like the type of book, anything that more likely that came, say from the mind. When I say you say the study for the mind. I know I say for anything in the mind. I know I'm like, yeah, that knowing about that anything that more likely that we can maybe read, it's like it should be memorized. And knowing like the type of mind, we probably think about like anything that more likely we can do. I know like, yeah, that really it does not have to be written, let's say on our shirt, or it don't have to be written on, say, on the bottom of our hand, in that secret location or something like that, like, or even on like what's like a coloring book it is, so far as for magic coloring book. I know I'm like, yeah, that basically the whole activity about what you call as magic. I know I'm like that, maybe that we may be surprised about what we get for what we remember. No, if I say talk about, it's like for you say for magic coloring book, make I say for speech coloring activity.